Hello everybody, welcome to the Redmen TV and your latest edition of Liverpool Transfer News Update. My name is Dan Clubb, and for the next half an hour or so, I'm going to be going through some of your comments, a lot of your chat about the latest in the world of Liverpool Football Club. Of course, we've got a couple of news items I want to talk about, but overall, just want to have a good old chat about the Reds. Who do we want as our next captain? Who do we want to replace Fabinho and Jordan Henderson? Because let's be honest, both of those footballers look like they're heading out of the door. Before I get into the news, you've already been commenting quite a lot in the chat. I've seen some interesting stuff come through, so I'm going to go through some of that to begin with. And the first one, nice bit of positivity for Friday lunchtime for everyone to get their teeth stuck into. XYZ says, we'll end up playing Trent and McAllister as 6 and not buying anyone. Well, that's nice and positive. XYZ, that's what we like to see. I don't think that's going to be the case, to be honest with you. I think the Trent in the 6 thing, we've seen in midweek in Karlsruhe, a game I was at, of course, covering for us. I think that was more of a personnel situation. I spoke to Neil about it this morning on Journal Insight, for anyone that watched that. I think that was more of a personnel situation. Obviously, Fabinho wasn't there. He was back home. Henderson was about to leave the training camp, something which we now think he's done. There was no Thiago, there was no Pacetic. I think Trent just ended up being the 6. I think Trent being the 6 was actually more akin to sort of us moving forwards with the box situation and him going from right back into that midfield to play alongside a more familiar 6. And McAllister, no. He's done it before in like a double pivot. He might do it in games potentially a little bit, but I don't think outright he will be playing in that role, quite frankly. I think we'll be buying one. And I certainly hope we'll be buying one as well. I want to talk about one of the ones we might be buying in a few minutes. Dom Stacey says he's surprised at how quickly the Thuram and Kone rumours died down. It seemed they were heavily linked. They're both great players. However, Kone did get injured in the under-21 Euros. Yeah, I watched the game he got injured in, actually, for France. I think there was reports last week, actually, Liverpool were still keen on Kone, which surprised me because, as you mentioned, they're injured. I think he's injured until sort of the beginning, if not the mid of August, and it was a knee problem. So it'd be a bit of a gamble to go after a player who is currently injured and you don't quite know how he's going to return. And knees are always very, very precarious. You've got to be so careful. And Liverpool needs to get this transfer right. We needed to get it right anyway, before Fabinho looked like he was going and before Jordan Henderson looked like he was going. But the importance of what we do next has gone up a couple of levels since we discovered that those two look like they're heading out. Just go through a couple more comments before I come on to our news. Yeah, just another day obsessing over who we may or may not sign. Yeah, that's what we do here, James. That is what we do. Dom Stacey asked if we should go with Locatelli as well. I'd love to. Chat has just paused right now, so I can't scroll down any further. In which case, we'll do some news, shall we? And the first bit of news I wanted to discuss is Jordan Henderson, who, according to Dave O.C. Kopp, is set to have his medical at Al-Ettifaq within the next 48 hours. He reported on this last night. Dave, as much as like people may say, oh, he just, reports other people's news and kind of gives credit to everybody else where it's due all the time, Dave has been very much at the forefront of this. Now, I spoke to him last week or the week before about this deal, and he was at pains to stress that he is just a Liverpool fan who happens to own this website. He's not some sort of in the know. He's not some sort of insider. He doesn't want to be David Ornstein, who ironically is on that screen right there. It just so happens that for this particular deal, Jordan Henderson's leaving Liverpool. He has been getting some stuff on it. And he has some more stuff on it for us now. And he says that Jordan Henderson is nearing an exit from Anfield after 12 years at the club. The Liverpool captain has agreed a 3-year deal with Saudi Pro League side Al-Ettifaq. Doesn't say it, but of course they're managed by Steven Gerrard. Henderson left Liverpool's training camp in Germany as the deal began to reach a conclusion. States that minor contractor issues have been ironed out between the clubs and including add-ons and bonuses agreements. I don't know if it mentions it in this. I'll just scroll down quickly. But I've seen the fee had been banded around 12 million plus add-ons in the past couple of days. And funnily enough, when I was in Germany, I was at the Karlsruhe game, as I mentioned. I was sat next to some of the press pack, let's just say, from the Liverpool area, Dom King, Ian Doyle and Neil Jones. It was chaotic, to say the least. Obviously, the Henderson stuff was all happening. People were trying to get more information and trying to find out what was going on because I didn't expect him not to be involved in that game at all. I'll be honest with you. I thought, given the fact he travelled to Germany and he'd been in training pitches and stuff like that, I thought we might see Jordan Henderson. But the minute the team and the squad was announced and he wasn't part of it, I think eyebrows began to be raised. I think Fabrizio Romano tweeted almost immediately saying, like, oh, the deal with Al-Ettifaq is sort of progressing towards its conclusion at that point. So, yeah, I think him not being involved was a huge red flag towards his Liverpool future coming to an end, quite frankly. So, yeah, I'm sure I've seen it reported around the 12 million mark. Let me know what you think about that fee, actually, in the chat, because I think when it was sort of muted that they might let him go for nothing last week, or Al-Ettifaq at least wanted him for nothing, that was just a non-starter for obvious reasons. I've seen 20 million was what people were sort of saying would be acceptable. I personally would have wanted closer to 20, but I think my take on it is when he's made it so obviously clear that he does want to leave, which by all accounts he has done, that Liverpool needed to find an agreement with Al-Ettifaq. Jordan Henderson, as your club captain, couldn't go from being sort of wanting to leave, wanting to go to Saudi. I was going to say sort of banging the door down, but he hasn't done that. And clearly his inclusion in the squad to go to Germany suggests that he was very much still part of the team, you know, cracking on regardless, getting the work done, etc., etc. So there was no sort of animosity there, let's just say. But the minute a footballer has decided he wants to move on to pastures new, certainly one that's playing under Jurgen Klopp, it felt like Liverpool had to find a way of getting this deal done, and we might well be about to do that. And I think 12 million is slightly under what we would have liked to get, but it's also better than nothing, quite literally. So I can live with it. Sonny Smith, hi Dan, yeah, hi to you. Hi to you as well. Yeah, this is a very left field question, but I'm supposed to have cricket this weekend, James. Yeah, tomorrow. But the forecast in Liverpool, I don't know what it's like where you are, is horrendous. Like, I've seen a month's worth of rain forecast in like 24 hours. So, yeah, I don't think I'll be playing cricket tomorrow, quite frankly, which is a shame, but what can you do? Betim Hasu says Palhinha probably the best transfer for us. Well, I want to talk about him in a minute. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, I'll discuss that in more detail in a moment. Sonny again says, honestly, I reckon Liverpool will sign Lavia and a left-sided centre-back. Who do you want that left-sided centre-back to be? Because I think Levi Colwill would be the one, but Chelsea weren't likely to let him go anyway. They were reluctant to do so. And then they lost Fofana again, didn't they? He's out injured again. I think he's got ACL reconstruction, I've seen. So they're going to be even more reluctant to sell him, basically, Levi Colwill. So I just don't see that deal happening now, unfortunately. The perfect solution would obviously be Josko Gvardiol at Leipzig. And I've seen this morning that the Leipzig sporting director saying that they're not in a position whereby they need to sell to Man City because they've got no money for Dominic Szoboszlai. So Jörg Schmadtke might have played a little bit of 4D chess there with Man City. And if Gvardiol doesn't go to Man City this summer, that would be huge for us in general because he's such a good player. The strengthening Man City would be a big blow to every club in the Premier League, not just Liverpool, of course. But if that meant he was available next summer, that's interesting because I would love us to sign him. Like, absolutely. He is the one. Like, we can all suggest different options like Inacio from Sporting and Mark Gahey, even we've spoken about on this show before. But yeah, I think if we all had our sort of pick of anyone in world football to come and do that job, it probably would be Gvardiol. Another Dan says Palhinha and Lavia, wishful thinking. A lot of love for Palhinha in here. I'm quite surprised. Didn't expect that. But Bowser Jr. says, any update on Fekir? Yeah, I think he's just getting his, just doing his photo shoot now, mate, to be honest. So that announcement should be imminent, I would imagine. Just, yeah, won't be too long. Should be no issues with the medical, I don't think. I think he'll be fine. He looks like a pretty fit and healthy lad. His knees look sound, so I don't think there'll be any issues there. John Sommers, hi again, John. Massively appreciate you getting involved, mate, as ever. Hi, Dan. Do you think Lavia deal will be done, and is the price a stumbling block? I don't think the price... I say that. I think the price is a little bit of a stumbling block because Southampton won 50 million. I don't think he's worth 50 million. I don't think it's Liverpool necessarily being tight or frugal or cheap in this instance. I think it's literally seeing the player for what he's worth. Now, I tweeted earlier on that the market for defensive midfielders is a little bit warped at the minute. And it's warped for a few reasons. It's warped because everyone knows Liverpool want one / need one. And also, Declan Rice going over 105 million. That's kind of made everyone who's got a good defensive midfielder probably add 15, 20 million onto the price tag of theirs. And I think we're seeing that a little bit with like Edson Alvarez from Ajax. I think we're seeing it with Moises Caicedo a little bit from Brighton, even though I think he's a wonderful player. And he would probably be my actual number one choice to come and do the role for Fabinho if that deal was even slightly possible. Who else? Palhinha is another one for Fulham. I think I'll talk about him again in a minute, obviously, but the price tag for him, Jack Decore, 70 million Palace want for him. I think that's definitely an indicator that every club who's got a sought after defensive midfielder is going, oh, Declan Rice is worth 105 million. Make sure you put an extra 15 on top of our one in that case, because it's just changed the landscape slightly, let's put it that way. Muddied the waters of the market. So yeah, I don't think the price is a stumbling block for Lavia. I think Liverpool would like to get him for cheaper than 50. That's obvious. I think more like 40. I actually think what it is the fact that Lavia is always earmarked as the understudy to Fabinho and to come in and to learn from him, to sort of develop and then replace him maybe in a year, maybe 2 years' time. But now that Fabinho's leaving, we need the ready-made replacement now. We need the first choice replacement. Now, that's not to say that Lavia won't still be signed, but I think first and foremost, we might have to get the one who comes in and plays from day one. And some of the options I'm not going to discuss in a little bit further detail, the likes of Calvin Phillips. Not for me, by the way. Sofyan Amrabat, I'd be okay with. I think I said earlier on this week that if we got Amrabat and an understudy like Lavia, I'd just about be okay with that as a situation. Because I think Amrabat as a replacement for Fabinho is quite like for like in terms of ability and stylistically. So I could see a world whereby that works and financially that makes sense as well. So I think Lavia is a deal that could still happen and perhaps will still happen, but there might have to be a deal before it, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Oh, and just look at that, a comment kind of backing up what I've just said, from Eric Sevenhaag, nice name as well. I'm about 25 million, Lavia 45 million, total 70. Yeah, I think I'd be okay with that, and that should leave money left over to go and get a centre-half as well. Quite frankly, ideally a left-footed one. Adam Aware says Florentino Luis is the best option to replace Fabinho. Yeah, a lot of talk about him and his ability and just how Fabinho-esque he is. Yeah, 424 for 6 is the quickest score. Who's out? Because when I was watching before, it was Brook and Bairstow going mad. Liverpool, England need like a 250 lead in like the next hour, by the way, just cricket related quickly, and they need to bowl tonight because of tomorrow's forecast. Cheers though, Joseph. Much appreciated. Who said Fabinho for captain? Who said that? Come on, speak up. That's insane for lots of reasons. Even if he wasn't about to leave, that's insane. XYZ says, I love Barella, but Inter just asked 100 million price for him. 100 million's too much for one on that. And for two, because I think he's 26, which is your prime, but I don't know, it feels a little bit excessive. I'd rather pay 100 million for Caicedo, who's 21, I think. So I'd rather do that personally with Premier League experience. But also the main point on Barella is, as ever, is he doesn't want to leave Italy. I had a conversation very briefly with somebody very in the know in Italy a couple of weeks ago, and the conversation didn't go much further because it was pretty much said to me that he won't leave Inter Milan. That could obviously change, like circumstances do change. That was a couple of weeks ago for a start. But basically he's an Inter Milan fan, he loves playing for Inter Milan, he loves Milan, etc., etc. It'd have to take a huge seismic turn of events for him to leave there, quite frankly. That could be Inter Milan telling him he needs to go because he needs to raise money, whatever. But yeah, not happening, I think, is my headline from that right now. Michael Martin says, Doku's brilliant first game of pre-season. Yeah, he was, mate. Yeah, I had a good chat with Neil about him this morning, actually. And I love watching him play football. Like I said to Neil, like when I watch us in pre-season or, you know, when I watch the under-23s play, whatever it is, I try my hardest to not concentrate on Ben Doak and like be impressed by the other lads, because there's some great footballers in there, Bobby Clark, etc., some really good players, some real talent. But you can't avoid Ben Doak. Like, he's just inevitable. You can't take your eyes off him. He's so exciting to watch. He just runs at people all the time. And on your point, I think we will use him more, to be honest. And XYZ backs it up as well. Ben Doak and Conor Bradley were great. Yeah, Conor Bradley impressed as well. Interesting role for him, playing as a bit of a hybrid. So I think we'll see a little bit more of him, that obviously on the back of that really good season for Bolton too. I'm just going to pop through a couple more comments before I bring you my next piece of news. I didn't say much about a Henderson thing because I don't want to. He's leaving. In one hand, it's a shame that he's going to leave in the circumstances that he is, by which I mean no send-off. Like, say what you want about him. Say what you want about his ability. Say what you want about his time at Liverpool as a footballer, and say what you want about the fact he's leaving in the circumstances that he is. He's been a brilliant captain for us. He's won everything for us as captain. So, yeah, he shouldn't leave under these conditions, in my opinion. Like, we all seen the send-off Bobby Firmino got. We all seen the love that we had for Bobby Firmino. It should have been similar for Jordan Henderson. It should have been relatively similar for Fabinho, quite frankly. So it's a shame that both of their Liverpool careers looks like it's going to end in the fashion that it is. But yeah, I didn't want to touch too much on it because they're leaving now. Like, what are we going to do? There'll be time to talk about it in more detail. Me and Chris are going to do some reacts to it a little bit later. But yeah, there'll be time. I've just missed that comment. Let me just find that one. Sorry. There's that chat there. Scroll back up. There we go. Got it. Alex Blackburn is your surname? Yeah, Alex Blackburn. Hi, Dan. How late in the transfer window can we go if we still want pre-season to be effective on any new signings? Yeah, it's an interesting one, that. And I think in an ideal world, we would have had our signings done by now. That was never possible or plausible, given there was a competition, Euro 21s going on and stuff like that. But that sort of ideal scenario has been thrown into more, doubt, if you like, or it's even more hard to achieve now because of the Fabinho and Henderson stuff. Like I've said it multiple times on different shows, it was never part of the plan to allow those two to leave. So our proactiveness in getting ready for this transfer window has just been completely thrown into disarray now, because you now have to probably still sign your understudy as a six, but you also need your frontline six, and you also need any other business that you want to get done. Letting go of players, Nat Phillips, for instance, signing your centre-half to replace your fifth-choice centre-half, your left-sided one in an ideal world, like I've touched upon. So I think we're just going to have to sort of suck it up for this window and just, it goes as late as it goes. Like, if in recent years, Liverpool haven't really been doing much business in like transfer deadline day, or even in the build-up to deadline day, like a couple of days before. But this time around, it might just have to happen, because I take your point, Alex, in terms of it'd be nice to get them in for a couple of these pre-season games. Obviously, we play again on Monday in Germany. Then we've got Bayern Munich and Leicester, I think it is, before another game back home at Preston's ground. But I think as a one-off window, we're probably not going to see one of the new signings, at least, in any of these pre-season games, which is far from perfect. I get it. Klopp would like to have him in. He would like to have him learning the system, etc., etc. But just this time around, I think we're going to have to suck it and see a little bit. Nikhil Paul asks, can we deal with our first four fixtures with the current midfield? Probably. I don't want to be honest, but I mean, Chelsea, Newcastle, Bournemouth at home, and somebody's going to have to remind me of the fourth fixture on that. But I don't want to, is probably my overall answer on that, because going to Chelsea away first day of the season without a recognised number six, I don't know if Thiago will be ready. And he's not a recognised number six anyway, so I don't even know I'm starting that sentence. Feels like a huge gamble to me. Like, what would we have in? Maybe Pacetic, but again, he's not ready to play right now. No, that can't happen. I'm sorry, it can't. Like, there's good options there, like not in terms of the six, but in terms of the midfield options. Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, Thiago himself, Pacetic. Obviously, McAllister, Szoboszlai, the two new lads. No, none of them strike me as a genuine option to play the deeper one, the defensive midfielder, and we need one, and we just need one. So no, I'm not willing to go to Stamford Bridge with our current midfield options. Yes, I would take Thuram to replace Hendo. I'd take Thuram, full stop, quite frankly. Adam, I would. 105 million release clause for Florentino Luis, somebody's asked there. And Germ B, yeah, absolutely, mate. Asked to talk about the 70 million release clause on, not release clause, rather, asking price on Decore. This market is insane. Yeah, it is. It's a massively inflated market for defensive midfielders. Like I touched upon earlier, caused a little bit by Declan Rice and caused a little bit by the fact that everybody knows Liverpool want one. So the minute Liverpool knock on a door, send an email, make a phone call, send a WhatsApp, whatever it is you do these days, they're all going to go, oh yeah, you're the guys who really need a number 6 and who've just received 50 odd million for the sale of Henderson and Fabinho. Oh yeah, let's charge you through the nose. That's why we were lucky to get McAllister and a little bit of Szoboszlai as quickly and as cheaply, in inverted commas, as we did. Couple of decent clauses in their contracts that meant we could do them deals. Like if Caicedo, for example, had a £60 million release clause, we wouldn't even be having this conversation and just be go and do it. Like absolutely go and do it. Wade Ashley Feist says, I love the idea of Palhinha at Liverpool, just wondering what the price would be. Well, thanks for the segue, because this morning Paisley Gates reported, that's an advert, get rid of that. Paisley Gates reported, via the Paisley Gates, a report from the Daily Telegraph by Sam Wallace, which said Liverpool are looking to sign Joao Palhinha from Fulham, of course, and it claims that Fulham would want £80 million for the midfielder. That is a price. You know, we talk about the market being inflated just a second ago. £80 million. And it touches on an article from Chris Bascom as well that talks about Lavia being better value than Palhinha, who's valued at 80 million by Fulham. They only signed him last summer, and that was 20 million. So looking for a £60 million profit. Touched on it being a good player. Yeah, a good player last year. I wanted to do some stats. And for me, like, the main thing in all of this, and forgive me a little bit for just how stubborn I'm going to be and how much I'm going to write it off, but £80 million for a 28-year-old who's played one season in the Premier League. Like, am I being stupid? Is it just me, or is that insane? Like, surely not. Like, you credit to Fulham for saying 80 million, because why not? He's their player, he's under contract, as you can see there, until 2027. They hold all the cards when it comes to this. And he had a really good season, like a properly impressive season, especially for his first one. But come on, like, play the game. 80 million. Not a chance. So Wade Ashley Feist, there's your answer. They want £80 million for Joao Palhinha. Good player? No. Just no. Like, 28. Like, you might get, 2, maybe 3 years out of him at his very peak. Like, we're already talking about Lavia being an understudy for somebody. You can't sign somebody for 80 million who you think you might get 2 or 3 years out of. Now, I'm aware there's examples of people in this position, such as Fernandinho, going deep and deep and deep into the late 30s and being very, very good still. And Palhinha might be one of them. Of course he might, but you don't pay 80 million on the off chance that he can do it until he's 36. That's just not right. And like I say, I'm not criticising Fulham in this, because why not? You will demand the highest possible figure, of course you will, because he's their footballer and there's no reason for them to sell him. So, fair play to them, but I don't know. Not for me. I've seen some positivity around Palhinha in the chat, and feel free to continue on that theme, but no. Betty OG says, do you think Liverpool will actually make more than one signing? Yeah, I think we have to, quite frankly. I know people sometimes criticise us and FSG for sort of being frugal, not wanting to sign players, etc. But yeah, personally, I think we have to sign more than one player, and I'd actually like to sign 3 more players. The ideal summer from here on out for me is the frontline 6, the understudies of 6, who could potentially play in the 8 as well a little bit. That's not essential. And the centre-back. And ideally, that centre-back will be left-footed and can cover left-back as well. So yeah, that's my synopsis of the transfer window. Luke McDermott brings a name back that I've not seen for a while. Lavia and Gabby Veiga, 90 million. That mean you want Lavia as your defensive midfielder to replace Fabinho? Feels too soon for me, that. God's spirit, I hope not. Good Lord. Good Lord. If we find ourselves in that situation again, it's a mess. Now, the minute I'm willing to give Liverpool a little bit of leeway, because I think we've been caught off guard by this Fabinho and Henderson stuff. I don't think we expected to be selling them, like I touched upon earlier. But we've now that we know it's happening, we've had a few days, and it'll soon be a week or two to sort of get our heads around it and assess the other targets and the other options that are out there. We cannot end up in that situation again. Simple as that. Because as much as somebody raises the point here, my other Dan, it's not me. I'm some sort of like, making conversation with myself just to look popular. This is a genuine, bona fide other Dan. It says, getting nervous because the season is fast approaching. As much as that is the case and the season is fast approaching, in terms of the transfer window, there's still over a month to get this business done. So there's no excuses for me as to why Liverpool won't be bringing in very good options, and I use options in plural there. Wiggs, absolutely same. I've said it a few times now. Caicedo would be my sort of dream first choice, and I see no reason why we don't go and hijack the Chelsea deal for him, because that deal doesn't feel like it's very far down the line. So I'd be Caicedo in terms of front line, go and get it done, pay the 80, 90 million, whatever it is that Brighton want. I think it might be more than that, to be honest. And then below that, if we were going sort of cheaper alternatives plus your understudy, I'd be Amrabat and Lavia. That's just me, though. Feel free to wholeheartedly disagree with me. Yeah, I've just seen. I was gonna giving you a comment up about the GoFundMe because I quite liked it, but then I seen your name and it's just let me down a little bit. Somebody makes a point. I haven't seen the full comment, so forgive me. Is Lavia? It's Adam James. Hi, Adam. Is Lavia that good? I can't remember him standing out last season. Don't forget, Southampton got relegated. Well, we sit here on the 6-year anniversary of Liverpool signing Andy Robertson from another relegated side. And I believe tomorrow is also the anniversary of us signing Gini Wijnaldum, who we signed from recently relegated Newcastle at the time. So just because a player got relegated doesn't necessarily mean they won't be a success. Just saying, you never know. And Lavia's a good player. On top of that, he's a good player. Brett Clark said, pretty big kudos to Schmadtke if he manages to iron all this out in his first few months at the club. Bit chaotic. Yeah, it is a little bit chaotic, mate. Yeah, he's walked into a bit of a, that meme when the dog sat down with a cup of coffee and everything's around him on fire, and it's like, this is fine. That might be Jörg Schmadtke right now. I seen he was speaking. Martin Davis makes a point as well. I seen Schmadtke was speaking actually this week about his deal. I'm sure he said he's got an annual deal, which obviously means he sort of expires, what would it be, sort of next May time. But in August, this coming August, they can sort of sit down and talk about it and decide if it's working. And if it's not, they'll shake hands and go their separate ways. I'm paraphrasing massively on that, as you can imagine. So, as you can probably tell. But yeah, that was an interesting thing. So yeah, remains to be seen if he stays on beyond August. Martin Davis, yeah, that's what I said, basically. Absolutely agree. Thuram and Coop Miners will be boss. Yeah, I agree. Thuram especially. I'm a bit gutted to come back to the earlier point about Thuram sort of not being on the radar anymore. That feels like a shame to me. He felt like a good fit. But yeah, XYZ is back. Why? What has the world gone to? 28 million DM, cost 80 million. Yeah. And you know what? I've said it a few times already. Fulham sounds like, fine, whatever. It's insane, and Liverpool shouldn't do it and probably won't do it. But can you blame them? I can't. Like, why not? If we were in their position, thankfully we're not, and hopefully never will be. But yeah, why not? Your player under contract for 4 more years. You've just signed him. He was boss last season. Yeah, Liverpool won him. Liverpool have got dough. Yeah, 80 million. Wiggs said, just go back. I say, though, so many players rated 70. Yeah, absolutely. That's another point on this, actually, is Decore and Palhinha. If we're talking 70 and 80 million for those two especially, and you can go and get Caicedo, who's younger than both of them, a lot younger than Palhinha, and you can go get Caicedo for an extra 15, 20 million for argument's sake, I know which one I'm picking. And it's the latter, in case that wasn't obvious. Anyway, I'll sort of wrap up in a second because I'm talking a lot. I do that a lot, though. You guys have watched this enough to know I do some talking. Somebody just mentioned Wilfred Ndidi. I've scrolled past the comment, but I don't think so. There was a time about a year ago, maybe slightly longer, that I would have jumped at the opportunity to sign Wilfred Ndidi, but he had a really poor season. Like somebody said a minute ago about Lavia being in a relegated Southampton team. But I think Lavia stood out. I think he was actually quite impressive, especially for someone so young, whereas Ndidi had a really poor season for Leicester, if my memory serves me well. And it's a shame because, like I say, I liked him. We can't go through one of these shows without somebody mentioned James Ward-Prowse, can we? Not this comment, by the way. Skip to Malou. Strip to Malou would have been different. Dan, thoughts on Lavia, Kone and a top centre-back? Lavia, yes. Understudy. Kone, no, because of that injury he's got. And a top centre-back, yes. Absolutely. Next one is this, XYZ. Yeah, James Ward-Prowse. What is it with you guys and James Ward-Prowse? You're obsessed. Let it go. Let it go. Anyway, last couple of comments before I do wrap up. Somebody mentioned Gvardiol. Yeah, that's so good. If that doesn't happen because we signed Szoboszlai, absolute masterstroke. Mr. J Mango, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it is JD74 as well. You're right. I've done something on our Twitter for that. It is the anniversary of a signing Veratti Hegem. I hope you've all got your plans tonight, your party for that particularly special occasion. Shadow Boxer Clips, which is a name, isn't it? It's coming up now. Here we go. Yeah, Amrabat would be my first choice now. It will be my first choice. But as I said earlier, it would be Caicedo as my first choice. And then if you can't get him or you can't get your elite option, go and get Amrabat, fill the gap for a year or two, have Lavia or whoever you perceive to be the young understudy waiting in the wings. Super chat before I go as well. Neil Callahan, thank you very much, man. €85. Have a terrible feeling that FSG are cutting down costs to fund the Fenway corner. They won't prioritise winning trophies of that. Can they cut costs anymore? No, I'm half joking when I say that. No, I don't think so. We've just done that decent commercial deal last week. I see him. I'm going to try and speak to Dave Powell. That'll be news to Dave Powell if he hears this, by the way. In the next couple of weeks, I've spoken to him a few times, obviously the finance guy at the Echo. Because I think Liverpool are about to start negotiations with Nike as well over a new extension on our current deal with them. So I don't think one thing affects the other, is what I'm trying to say. Like, Liverpool will have their own sort of team of people involved in making decisions. And I don't think, Neil, and this might be me being wishful thinking, and I know FSG coming for a lot of criticism, and some of it's well placed, of course it is, but I don't think they'll affect each other. I really don't. I hope not, anyway, because I don't want Liverpool's transfer policy to be affected by what's going on in Boston. Let's just leave it at that, basically. That is not what I want to happen. And that might come as a surprise to some of you, but I don't want that to happen. JD74 talking about Florentino Lloris as well. That release clause is better value than those two. Yeah, I'd probably go along with that. Not better value than Caicedo, in my opinion. Yeah, so anyway, I think I'm done. Oh, is it really? His birthday is on the same day as Liverpool signed Veratti Hegem. It was meant to be. Meant to be. Anyway, just going to check. I've not missed anything vitally important. I don't think I have. Yeah, cool. Boss, sound. You're all amazing. Thank you very much for getting involved, as always. It's much appreciated. I hope I made some sense along the way. It's Saturday tomorrow, so nobody will be sat here, unless something majorly dramatic happens, of course. Paul, I believe, will be back on Sunday. I should also tell you that I've been looking down at this book for about half an hour, and I haven't even held it up, and I nearly forgot. Bobby Firmino, best in the world. The documentary. I hope you've all seen it on YouTube. If not, what you're doing. If you have seen it on YouTube, rather, and you want to watch episode 2 and 3, they're also out on Red Men Plus now. But also the book that stemmed from the documentary is also out. And I'm not being funny, and I'm not just saying this because I've wrote a decent proportion of it. It's special. Like, it's not just words. You can see words, but it's pictures, it's art, it's stats, it's stories from famous fans. And I'll just see if I can find the famous fans page quickly. We've got Dave Jaggs. There we go, famous fans. The likes of Chelsea Grimes, Nick Pete, Toby Tarrant, Ian Sterling. If anyone watches Love Island, you'll know who Ian Sterling is. Yeah, there's more on there as well. But it's just glorious, quite frankly. It really is. It's boss. They're on redmenmerch.com now. Me, Paul, and Steve will also sign one of them for you if you so wish. I mean, who doesn't want that? Let's be honest. Like, you know, you thought it was good anyway, and then we sign it. What a life. Anyway, pleasure speaking to you, as always. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Have a good weekend and take it easy.
Much for checking out the show today. If you need more Liverpool content in your life, whether it's podcasts, videos, interviews, or great Liverpool documentaries, head over and subscribe to redmenplus.com today. It funds everything we do across all the free platforms, and we give you amazing content each and every week.